We may need your help. Talk premature. Disturbance unnecessary.
Welcome back to the Tydirium Hangar. This is Mike. Today I want to talk to you about the vintage Omega Supreme, the G1, the original. And the thing is that there's several replacements that have been showing up lately, such as New Age, such as Pengu Toys, which would actually sort of replace the Omega Supreme for your G1 line if you wanted to keep the same size or scale or relatively the same. But even with that, nothing truly beats the original. And we're going to take a look at this. We're going to transform it up and do some of those redundant comparisons and stuff. But I got to tell you, getting those other ones just made me want to get this thing and complete it. So we're going to talk about this coming up. Omega Supreme was originally released in Japan in 1984, but under a different name and different color scheme. As you can see, it was actually released by a company called Toy Box. It was actually called the Mecha 1 Robot, or Mecha Bot 1 Robot, Super Change Robot. And so with that, its origin started in Japan, but then Hasbro, of course, incorporated it into the Transformers line. They changed the colors up, and as you can see, it has the red and darker gray, and we have a whole new color scheme with what Hasbro did. Now, some of the other companies actually copied the Hasbro color scheme, and this was licensed out to many different companies, made many different ways, and so there's a lot of variations you could track down if you wanted to. But all I gotta say is I like the Hasbro one the most, but wouldn't it be cool to get some of these? Oh wait, we are getting some of these color schemes from New Age. So I'm going to start out with this guy in the alt mode because I think it's so much fun. I did get this tank to work, and that's what it does. Kind of the same thing. It's loud, but it's kind of the same thing that happens with New Age. So here it goes. This is what it did from back in the day, the early first G1. We saw that New Age is doing pretty much the same thing with theirs, and so that's cool. It's reminiscent. It's a whole lot of fun. Now, this is exciting probably to a kid back in the day, but it would have been nice if it incorporated figures. I guess you could sort of put like a mini bot on there or something. Give us a side. Let's go ahead and take a look at this beast of a playset. It looks really cool, and the thing about this is that it is an ultra super duper ultra parts former, and I'm not gonna lie about it. It is definitely a parts former. So we have his backpack, we have his feet right here, we have the clips that kind of clip the legs together, we have the legs, the ankles, the wings on the backpack, which the wings you could actually pick which one you want to set it up to look more like the cartoon, which I don't know if the animators just did that, like, oh hey, the kids have the ability to customize this if they wanted to. We also have the rocket, which is really kind of cool and really kind of fun overall. The rocket is the culmination of connecting the two arms, the two hands together, and that's how it goes. And there's no articulation in the fingers and all that kind of stuff when we combine it, but it's quite satisfying that it works the way it should. It kind of goes up here to this launching area and all of that. Now here is the launching area where it would launch from, and so all of this is constructed together with the feet and all of that, and then the back connector right here. Also, the small connector that connects the part on the back is connecting on the outsides here, and then the insides where the feet would protrude from the lower legs, actually the feet, the toes go in there so it all fits side by side, and there's clearance for the tank. So it's really kind of cool how they designed it. This is old school design and technology that is still holding up today. So this is going to push the limits of my space, and this is something that I really kind of feel like I omitted from my original videos, and I didn't do a base comparison. I did not do the alt mode comparison to either the Pengu or the New Age, and I want to say that I feel like I kind of shafted everybody in that one, so we're going to do that one right now. I think I'm going to keep New Age in the alt mode simply because it does such a good job at this, and the Pengu fits my shelf better. So with that, looking at these, they're about the same size. The G1's still a little bit bigger. Here it goes from a different angle, and I want to say that this one is thicker because all the parts are thicker to it. So this is thinner, more streamlined, sleeker than this one here, although this one is, I think, taller. Yeah, this one is taller. We'll see in a bit. Well, we won't see with this one. We'll see with the Pengu. And scrolling down here now, the actual length of it, the vintage one's a little bit longer, and I did take into account when I measured up the other side that this bump out just really doesn't count because it doesn't have those bump outs because it has superior technology and all that kind of stuff. Of course, 40 years later, we better have superior technology, but so much of this is the same, is almost exactly the same and similar in ways. So really cool, really good, nice homage. Here's both the tanks in action. I do want to point out that the vintage one is way louder, but I also want to point out it's faster. If we were going to race these two, the G1 would definitely win when it comes to speed, that's for sure. One more thing I wish I would have done in my other review was, of course, comparing these rockets, and this is slimmer and it does go up higher and taller and kind of cool. So it is kind of cool how these things are advanced. Almost all of them now have this loading ramp, which they didn't back in the day. Of course, this toy was not as sophisticated back in the day, but for the time, it was still really good. All right, so here it is with some figures on it and looking kind of cool overall. This is definitely not a bad way to display. Just make it look like the cars are all driving around with them and all that kind of stuff. Or you can display them inside or have bots standing in there. I generally store most of mine in alt mode anyway, so this would be kind of fun, kind of cool. A cool way to display it. And yeah, looks good. So now it's going to be time to transform this guy. So we're going to need to get it kind of closer to me so we can get this all transformed up. I will mention that moving this thing around is kind of awkward and it can fall apart on you and stuff. So starting with the tank, we do want to lift this up. It is ratcheted and then this will pop down. And then the head, I don't know. I mean, I've seen people move the head like it's nothing, but it feels like you're doing some damage moving the arms out. This is what you got to be really careful with this all this mechanism here, simply because all of the electronics are in it. You can flip this up. This should come down. Then you move down the legs gently until they kind of pop into place. Gently. Yeah, well, that wasn't so gentle. Then the arms come out like so, and then we will be attaching stuff to that. Setting that aside, we are going to pull this off. Now, the feet connect via these parts right here, like so. And so with that, we're going to slide this off. We have the foot, set that aside. Do not lose these pieces. These just sort of fell off. I don't think they clip in as well as I would like. And then same thing with this other foot over here. And one thing about this backpack is you kind of want to have it open. So you kind of push down on this tab to open it up. And then we're going to put the wings in there. And I'm going to show you some different wing configurations that I like. We're going to set this aside because that's the easiest part. And we get into this. So what we want to do is, just like we saw with all of the transformations of the modern ones, you unclip these and set them aside because you can just leave it like that for your combined mode. And then we're going to get into the legs. Now, they're not as simple as it looks. It just looks as simple as we got an A, B, C, D, and I'm not sure which ones go to which. I will refer to my other one so that I can make sure that I have the right one on the right one. So we're going to separate all these. It seems like one side goes to one leg, the other side goes to the other. Anyway, you would think that they would be the same, but the reason that they're different though is like when you put them together, you can see that they're different because of the way that it works, the way that they operate. Yeah, it's up top here. They're different because of which one's on the inside and which one's on the outside. So that's what the difference is. When you connect them together, there's a notch right here so that it can walk. And so the outside looks a little bit more closed up. I believe that's why that is set up like that. Anyhow, we do have this piece which is going to connect. So let's see if these should be pretty much the exact same thing. Is there an A, B, and CD on this? There's an EF and an HG. Wow. So you have to have the right ones in the right spots or it's just not going to work right. So that might have been one of my problems in the past. So we're going to get into the connection. And so what you see is a bigger piece over here and a smaller piece over here, which is how we are going to connect this. It should fit in just right. and fit in there just right, and then we connect them like so. And then if you look on, don't lose that. So we have a big piece on the inside and a small piece on the outside. I believe that's the right way to do it. It should be the right way to do it. And that lines up like so. Then this is going to be, I guess you can say, technically the right leg. So I don't know if this is the right way to do it or anything like that, but we do need to connect the feet, and they just kind of pop into place, which is cool. Pop them into place, and then we're going to pop these bits here on, and like so. Now, I do want to make sure I get this in the right spot. So one of the things that's going to make this work, the walking mechanism work, is to connect. There's a tab on the inside here, right there, and a slot. You got to make sure that tab's in to it when you put it together. Wow, it's been so long since I've actually transformed one of these, but it's still relatively sort of simple. You would slide this small piece right here on the back, and then you'd slide this bigger piece right here. And I guess I didn't show the small piece where it was connected before. It was connected on the inside here. It actually connects right here. When you combine these two pieces together, it slides on right there. So the small piece slides onto right there. It just fell right off of mine. I mean, it's so old and used and beat up. But yeah, we repeat the same process on the other side. Once we have the legs together, we need to put these pieces on. And I believe it goes on like so. And then this one goes on here like so. And there we go. Then we just simply pop this apart and slide it on. There is a tab that should lock into place right here to hold it in place. There. So there it is. If you don't want it falling apart, it would lock in place. Then we still need to put the back piece on. Here we have the backpack, and we are going to connect this right here. Now there's a couple of different configurations that you can use to connect it. Now you can connect it just like this and have it big and crazy, or you can do what I'm going to do with this one, because I have another one to show also, and I'm going to do a configuration like this to look more like the cartoon. I think that they gave us these options or the animators used these options because they could take advantage of it. And then we connect it like that. And then we're going to come over here and place it on his shoulders so we can kind of get through all that. Get it on there. Pretty good. And we're pretty much done. So here he is in his robot mode. This is by far the coolest gimmick of this toy, but as you can see, he walks slower than Baby Yoda, and I'm sure that's where the Jon Favreau got his Baby Yoda walk from. Omega Supreme. And I do want to point out that the electronics in this can be very fiddly. There's a couple of things to consider with the electronics. This has to be in full upright position completely for it to work right. And then here is the, get that down, this up, batteries in there good, terminals clean, and all that kind of stuff. And then there's an on and off switch right back here. And that's where you turn it on. And as you can see, if I have it don't have it completely locked into place, it doesn't want to walk. And that's a common problem with a lot of them. It doesn't lock into place as well as it should. Okay, so let's take a look at this guy. I think that he looks really cool. I don't know if mine, all the stickers are in the right spot, but it's okay. I get mine secondhand. I don't really pay a whole lot for vintage Transformers because of the fact that vintage Transformers, there's just still quite abundant. There's still a lot of it out there, and then there's some Encore, and I really didn't keep up with what's actually vintage and what's reissue and all that kind of stuff, and I really don't care. I just like the fact that we have a vintage type of figure here. And so with this, I do like a few things about this. This does have a clear dome in here, which is cool, but it is a problem because there's no face in it. And with that, It's also kind of hard to work on this. It does have a light that lights up and all that kind of cool stuff. Scrolling down here to the shoulder pads, that is very accurate to the show. And all of the yellows are about the same. The thing is that over time, some yellows, well, does yellow really yellow? Yellow browns, right? So some yellow browns over time, and then getting down to this nice big sticker right there is pretty cool. And then getting down here to the rub symbol. So this is pre-rub and rub at the same time. And then we have the knees and the pads and all that kind of stuff. So it is a really nice looking bot considering how old it is, and whether or not this is an Encore. I actually don't know. I didn't look close. This might even be an Encore one, but the fact that it's so fiddly with the electronics, I believe it is vintage. It does look cool, menacing, and he is kind of big. There's not much articulation though, really just in the arms. It kind of goes out, kind of lose your arm a bit, and it holds pretty well. It's ratcheted. Yep, it is ratcheted, and can't quite hold it up as well going forward as I would like, but with the ratchet for the shoulder itself, it will hold up just fine. And so with that, that's all the articulation. I wouldn't move the head unless it was going to move on its own, and the legs with the walking gimmick. So anytime you have a gimmick in a toy, it limits articulation, right, LJN? Hey, LJN, is that true? Who said LJN, and where's my Samo flange? So one thing I want to point out here and get a good angle on this is the way that you can change up the back. You could call them wings, but they're really the tracks. So you can change up the tracks. The problem is you have to store this much if you make it look more cartoon accurate like I did with that one. But I would rather see that on my shelf than to see that on my shelf. So all right, so here he is next to two of my favorite G1 figures from back in the day. This is a G1 Superion, which I have to say is still pretty affordable to get a complete G1 Superion this day and age, or piece one together, and Jetfire, which I think a complete one goes for around 200 or something like that these days. So still not too crazy. I actually think getting him complete would be around the same as getting a Jetfire complete. He'd be cheaper. But these are three of my favorite G1. Well, these are two of my favorite G1s. I didn't have him back in the day as a kid, and it's kind of fun figuring him out as an adult. All right, so here it is next to G1 Metroplex. Now, the G1 Metroplex, I did do a review on that one a while back, and kind of fun. There's a lot of more parts to that figure than I realized, but looking at this, he's still a little taller. A little bit taller if you count head-to-head. Not taller if you count tips of the weapons. Well, I don't know. The tips of his tracks kind of go over. And talking about my best friend. These are best friends here. And as you can see, he towers over his best buddy that did him wrong. Did him dirty. Revenge. Seek revenge. And he is way bigger than Optimus Prime. I think the Optimus Prime is the G1 measuring stick. You got to pull your Optimus Prime out to measure other bots, and he's way bigger. Is bigger better? Oh. Well, Optimus Prime's chest stays closed. This is my look at Omega Supreme, the G1 vintage version, and what do I think about him? I think that he is actually a pretty interesting toy with a pretty interesting gimmick. I think it's kind of cool that he walks. I think it's cool that he doesn't talk, but he goes around his own base track, and that's something that New Age has engineered. No one's engineered a walking one yet, and is the big one that they made, the Titan one, better? Probably, but it doesn't have all of the gimmicks. Does the gimmick run it, or does it add to it? Well, that's for you to decide, and let me know in the comments. Do you think his gimmick runs it, or makes it a better toy, a better feature, and something else that you'd want to track down? Do you have this? Do you have the Encore, or is this something that you never were interested in? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and Titanium Hanger out.
Omega Supreme! What is it?
The capital city is under Decepticon attack.
Devastator. Quit squirming. This is for your own good. Revenge soon. Anticipation high. Vengeance good.